And welcome everybody. My name is Frances Parnell. I'm from the Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I'm General Manager for Membership Services here. Before I go into a little bit about the programme, I'd just like to do some housekeeping duties, if I may. The facilities, ladies and gents, toilets are in the central corridor. If you go out here of this door here and around to your right, you'll find the ladies and gents facilities. More importantly, in the event of an emergency, you will hear a siren. You need to go to that central location in the middle of the stairwell or in the middle of the corridor and go down the stairwell on either side. It'll take you out to the front of the building. Our assembly point is just down the street near Queen's Gardens. If you would assemble there, we have a list of your names, so I'll do the checking off. Now that's out of the way, I'd like to thank you for attending this launch that we have tonight for the Smarter Digital RoadMaps for Retailers pilot programme. This initiative has been funded by the Innovation Capability Development Programme with the WA Business Online, which is a part of the Department of Commerce, so a state government initiative, recognising that the state government are very keen to help retailers in this instance develop and identify how they can move their businesses into the online environment. CCI is a partner in this initiative with Richard Keeves from Smarter Web Strategies, and we will be rolling out the programme. We see this as a really important initiative because we recognise that retailers are doing it tough out there, and we recognise that retailers need whatever help they can in order to move their businesses into an environment where they're going to generate more revenue. So from our perspective, it's something that we're really keen, from a CCI perspective, to get people engaged in, and obviously Richard is very keen to have that as well. I'd like to hand over to Richard Keeves now, who will take you through the key elements of the programme, and hope you have a nice evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Just need to do the little mic. Okay, so thank you so much for coming and for entrusting your time with us. We hope to be wrapping up around about 6:30, but there's a fair bit to cover to get through. Today is about the launch of the new pilot program. And the program, I'm going to go into background and give you a bit of understanding about that, but it's really come about as a result of, I guess, probably my 15 or so years of seeing businesses struggle online and seeing businesses get lots and lots of information from lots and lots of different places, but often that information that they get is actually not right for them. It may have seemed right by the person who was trying to convince that person to do something. It may have seemed right at the time when that particular answer was the best answer that was available. But it didn't necessarily seem right 6 months later, or 12 months later, or 3 years later, as technology rolls along and as the online world rolls along. So part of today is to help understand what the picture's all about. And I'm going to be going into detail about the program itself. This is very much a strategic focus for retailers, but it's more than that. It's actually a focus to help retailers connect effectively with people who can help them. I should add, this event is being kindly video recorded by Creative Films International, and when we have some questions, we will try to make sure that the question is able to be recorded as well. If you would prefer your question not to be recorded, then just say, hey, this one's off the record, I'd like to know, and we'll treat it that way. Okay, so the question is, can WA retailers do better online? And if so, how can WA retailers do better online? I constantly, and you probably, who reads stories in the paper about retailers struggling? Right? Who reads stories in the paper about retailers doing really well? We see a couple of them. Not that many. How can WA retailers grow their businesses and protect their businesses? And the question is, how can they actually turn that bricks and mortar store into an advantage? That which looks like it could become a bit of a millstone around their neck at the moment, around the neck of some, with high rents, high wages, high everything that the online retailers don't have or appear not to have. How can the retailer with a physical presence, a physical store or multiple stores, how can they actually turn those stores to an advantage and get an advantage over online people, especially online people from other places? There are many ways of turning it to advantage. This program is about connecting pain, connecting people with pain. There is pain for retailers. Retailers are already under enormous pressure. Many are struggling. They are uncertain, they're confused about what to do, and really, some of them have already given up. Some retailers, unfortunately, have already given up. Others are saying, what do? I need help. A few are saying, hey, I know exactly what to do and I know where to go and I know where to find it. But most of them, from my experience and the retailers I've spoken with, most of them are just confused. They actually would like to do more, they would like to get smarter online. They don't necessarily know what to do. And yet, in amongst the community of people who help develop digital marketing agencies and web development agencies and all of those people who are service providers in the digital sector, out of all of those, there is a huge amount of wisdom and a huge amount of expertise. So at the moment, there's a disconnect between the needs of retailers. Well, this is what it seems, at least. There is a disconnect between the needs and desires of retailers to be able to learn what they need to know in order to plan effectively and roll out those plans. There's a disconnect between that and the wisdom that's inside the heads of service providers. There's a lot of pain. The bottom line is, though, most people don't know what they don't know. And retailers trying to understand how to get better online don't know what they don't know. There's plenty of knowledge out there, as I mentioned. There's plenty of knowledge if you know where to look, if you know what you need and you know where to look. But this is a bit of a catch-22 loop. You know, you can Google for all sorts of stuff if you know what to Google for. And if you can recognise what you're Googling for, you can then find it, you can process it, you can say, yes, that's exactly what I want. But most people don't actually know what it is they want. And so Googling is not the answer necessarily. You can ask people who do know, ask the specialists. So who are the specialists? Who are the people who might have some expertise that need to help retailers? Well, that could help retailers, that retailers could tap into. By the way, I didn't try to get all flash with a really super sexy PowerPoint with lots of clever stuff. I just wanted to put up some information. And so I'm not going to read through the bullet points, but the point is, when it comes to doing online business, there are a huge amount of skills and expertise and knowledge that retailers need to be able to tap into. Equally, there are lots of people with skills and knowledge who've got that, the specialist knowledge. So these specialists, community marketing specialists, digital marketing agencies, email marketing specialists, web development specialists, online shopping specialists. But here's the rub. Very few web development firms, and I mean there's no disrespect to any web development firms. I used to run a really good web development firm and we used to think we were really good at all sorts of things, but truth is we weren't. We were a little bit good at some things, we were really good at some things, but there were some things which we weren't that good at. And that's the same, in my experience, with every web development firm out there. The thing is, they don't necessarily tell you what the areas are they're good at and aren't good at. They learn on the job. They keep up on the job. So it's important to be able to tap into the expertise and the knowledge that's going on with these specialists. But this also translates to pain for these specialists as well. The people who are these digital specialists actually they've got really impressive skills. They know stuff. They know how to do their area of what needs to be done online really, really well. They may not necessarily know what to do outside of their area, but often they know how to do their area really, really well. The pain that service providers have is a bit different to that of retailers. the pain that these specialists, these service providers have, is finding suitable customers, is dealing with ignorant and naive customers. And that's no disrespect to any. But often, one of the challenges is working with customers who actually don't really know what they're talking about, but they come and ask you for advice. And yet they don't really know what they want. And so they're led in any particular direction that the salesperson to whom they talk actually wants to lead them. They're fair game. And that's a pretty sad and dangerous situation as well. So there's more pain for these specialists. Managing unrealistic expectations on behalf of the customer, especially in retail. Retailer says, I've got a website now. My job is done, I've now got a website. I spoke last year to the guy, MYOB. Who knows the story? But MYOB and Google did a great job helping retailers get online and businesses get online. They put 30,000 free websites up in the space of about 3 or 4 months. Now, in theory, that's a good job, except that the free websites aren't necessarily going to do deadly for the businesses that have got them. It may be better to have a free website than not to have a free website if you need to have a website. But just to think that the job is done now that I've got my free website, if I'm a retailer, the job is now done because I've got my website, is creating massive unrealistic expectations, which is danger again. So, and as I mentioned in the point there, many of these specialists are really good in their space, but not so clever outside of that space. Some pretend to have that broader knowledge. So, I say, what's the answer? Well, after a few years many years of working in the industry and a few years of observing from a distance, I kind of thought there's got to be a way of getting people together to share their ideas, to share their wisdom, so that a particular sector of the community that's in pain and struggling and really wants to know, at least some people within that sector may want to know how to improve what they're doing online. I think there's got to be a way for retailers to learn what they need. I think there's got to be a way for specialists to be able to pass on their wisdom and their advice to people in a format that actually works. I actually think there's a way for retailers to make smarter business plans for the digital world, what they need to be doing. Finding suitable help and doing better online. I think there's a way. I've been working with a few retailers. The service providers here. Who here's a service provider? Great, thank you so much for coming along. You guys have got wisdom. You've been working with retailers. Who here's a retailer? Great, thank you so much for coming along. We all need help. We all need to learn. We can work together and we can learn together and we can actually improve what's going on, improve the outcomes. At least that's what we think. And that's what we're testing and developing during this pilot program. We don't have all the answers. We do have some concepts and some philosophies, and thanks to the Chamber of Commerce and thanks to the WA government, we've actually got the ability now to start rolling this out and to run it as a pilot program to see whether we can make a difference in one sector here in WA that is actually in need. Now, can we change the whole of the retail sector in WA? No, that's not what we're even trying to do. We are wanting to educate some retailers who actually realise that they want to get better online and who want to do better online. This is about finding those retailers or attracting those retailers who actually want to do better online and who want to get a bit smarter and who want to work in this sort of a system and this kind of a process. Okay? I'll show you what it is. Smarter digital roadmaps for retailers. There is an information sheet on your seat, and you please take that with you because it's a really quick summary. There's also a website which we've launched just a few days ago called digitalroadmaps.org. There's a lot of information on the website, digitalroadmaps.org. But basically, this is a pilot program to help West Australian retailers develop and implement more successful e-commerce-based digital business systems. The reason I read that out and the reason it's a quote is that's part of our commitment to the WA government. That's what we've actually undertaken to do, okay? To help West Australian retailers develop and implement more successful e-commerce-based digital business systems, okay? It is part of the WA Business Online, as Frances mentioned earlier. I am the project director of it. It's something working in with the Chamber of Commerce. We have some grant funding from WA government. It is a wonderful thing that WA government is supporting it. It's not a lot of money, but it is enough for the pilot program if we are very frugal in what we do. And so when you go, all you web developer people out there, when you see our website, yes, it's built in WordPress, okay? And so yes, we do use and recommend low-cost solutions where they are possible to be used. But at the same time, we are careful with what we're spending money on, and we're rolling this out. The program itself is being already supported, and we'll hear from some of these guys later, by 5 industry associations in this digital space. It's being supported by the Australian Web Industry Association, the Australian Marketing Institute, WA Internet Association, eGroup and Mobile Monday, and we're really grateful for that support as well. Through these supporters, and they are foundation supporters, through these supporters, we hope and want to be able to tap into the membership base of each of these associations and find those people who service retailers in Western Australia and who are prepared to share their advice and share their wisdom, share their thoughts, and help pass that information back to retailers or out to retailers. Okay, so the reason for working with these industry associations is because they are a good way of getting to particularly good people who are specialists in fields. Okay, Mobile Monday is a group that is a global group with an organisation structure, or an organisation here in Perth. These guys are specialists in the mobile space. Okay, and so hopefully we're going to be able to tap into some of the wisdom that comes from in the mobile space as well. We've got a lot of bases covered. There are more to cover. This program is only being launched tonight. Okay, and in fact, launched tonight, runs from pretty much now through to mid next year. Now we say mid next year. Technically, it kind of may go through till September of next year. It may also finish in about June next year. This is something that, so we're just saying mid next year because it'll finish when we've developed the program and run the pilot program activities. And so it is from now until mid next year at the moment, and we'll give more clarity on that time frame as we roll out the schedule and as we develop that. And we hope to be very clear on that by about probably March as to how we're going. Basically, the program includes the delivery of 12 webinars for retailers throughout Western Australia. Okay, and part of the funding from WA Government includes the capability to do that. We're also going to be archiving these webinars and having them available for access by retailers. Not everyone is going to be able to attend the webinar live, but of course the great thing with webinars is that you don't need to attend them live. You can attend them later on at your own convenience, whether that be a day later or a month later. And we're going to be running these with specialists. I'm going to be essentially coordinating them, but tapping into the expertise on different topic areas as we work through them. And the topic areas, I'll cover that in a minute, but so you can understand where we're going with that. I'm also going to be producing 10 resource guides that will also provide information for retailers, and a bit more on that later. We are going to be running, and I am going to be the guy essentially running a coaching and guidance program for over 6 months, probably be a little longer than 6 months actually, a coaching program for a small group of up to 12 retailers who want to participate in that. And as you see, there is a small fee. It is a pretty small fee compared to the value that people get. It's $1,250, but I'll explain what is involved later on. Everything else here in the program is free as part of the funding from WA Government. And really, this coaching and guidance program should be a whole lot more than that fee if it wasn't for the funding from WA Government. We're also going to be creating, with the input of service providers in Western Australia, creating what we're referring to as the WA Service Provider Database. At different times I've called it different things. I've kind of lovingly called it the ecosystem, the WA Ecosystem Database, to try to map the ecosystem of what's going on in Western Australia and what service providers are able to provide what services to retailers and how can we link these people together. Some people don't know what I mean by ecosystem, so at the moment we're calling it WA Service Provider Database, It's not going to be so sophisticated. It's basically service providers coming online, registering, filling in some information about what they do, their areas of expertise, a few other key questions that we can then work through in the database. And also, one of the key things is working out what the sweet spot of each of these service providers actually is. What sort of businesses do they like to work with? Because what we want to be able to do is match retailers with the businesses that like to work with that type of retailer, or that size retailer, or that location of retailer. There's no point in, and I've said this 100 times, and I'll probably say another 1,000, there's no point in trying to match a retailer who only wants to spend $2,000 with a service provider whose minimum charge is $20,000. You've got a total disconnect. And there's no point, but it happens all the time, where the service provider says, well, normally we charge 20 grand, but actually for you we'll do it for 2. And the customer says, what am I not getting now? You know? So what we want to be able to do is to match the sweet spots of the service providers with the needs and budgets and resources of the retailers. It's not just about money, but often for retail and for any type of business that is careful about what they need to spend money on, it's ridiculous to try to have a very bad mismatch of budgets. And then later on next year, middle of next year, we're going to be running a forum event here at CCI, the Retail Forum. And basically, it may well be a small, I mean, the format for it is still yet to be determined, but it may well be a small kind of mini conference. It may, depending on who's interested in coming along and who's interested in speaking at it and what retailers actually plug into this. This is a pilot program. We do not know the outcome of this. That's why you have pilot programs. So this may attract a large number of retailers, or sadly it may not attract too many. We will be doing our job as best we can to promote this. We haven't got a huge advertising budget, so we rely on word of mouth, and I'll be really grateful if anyone who thinks this is actually a good idea by the end of the night helps share the word about the good idea. Because we really are going to be reliant on attracting and finding people who actually, for whom this makes sense, both service providers in this case and retailers, and also people who are prepared to support that, people who are supporters. Okay, so the webinars. First webinar is going to run in mid-November, working out the program for that at the moment. We're going to be, industry specialists, as I mentioned, will co-present the webinars, and they're going to be free access for retailers during the pilot program period. Okay. Resource guides, topic-based resource guides. Oh, the webinars will be topic-based as well. Okay. Topic-based resource guides with input from retailers and service providers, very much trying to pick the brains of service providers and pass that information out to retailers in an easily digestible format. Now, for those who don't know, and this is just a little bit of background on me, for the last 15 years I ran a web development company. Prior to that, I ran a business magazine. And what we used to do in the business magazine days was pick the brains of people who knew stuff about business and pass it on to people who wanted to know stuff about business. So in a way, this is kind of what I've been doing, or what I did back for 9 years in the 80s and 90s, is actually tap into the wisdom that's out there in the business community and package it up in a digestible format. A colour business magazine is a really dumb format these days, clearly. Webinars, resource guides and various other events are a better format. From the magazine world, I moved into the world of the internet, and we can talk about that. Also, by the way, what I also did the other day, a couple of months ago, was sorry, just the other day, it seems the other day, but I wrote a book. Catching Digital is the name of the book. There's some copies actually available outside, but the book talks about how to see the big picture of what's going on in the digital age, how to develop smarter strategies that make sense for your business, and also how to develop and start thinking about the digital roadmap. The digital roadmap, and it's not just for retailers, that's really across the board, relatively generic in its processes. But there are hundreds of different strategies and ideas in the book. So what we're doing with the resource guides is hopefully going to be able to pick the brains of people, of service providers who want to share their wisdom and pass that out in the guides in form of checklists, best practice advice, questions for retailers to consider, tips for them to follow, traps for them to avoid. And also with links, as you can see there, to other resources, industry groups and service providers who have helped participate or have helped in the production of that particular resource guide. Okay, this is very much a win-win scenario. The service provider who helps share their wisdom needs to get something back for it. I totally get that. And needs to be recognised as having contributed to it. So contributors to these guides are very, very welcome. These are going to be available for free for retailers during the pilot program, and also for service providers who contribute to them will also have access to those as well. So that's the resource guides. Coaching and guidance program. This is, as I just briefly introduced before, a 6-month intensive program for up to 12 retailers. Just a quick run through of what we're going to be covering. I'm going to be doing an initial business review with each participant, and the business review will be as long as the business review needs to be. It'll at least be a day, I imagine. It may well be several half days. It needs to review different aspects of that particular person's business. And so we're going to be sitting down and going through nuts and bolts to say, where are you today? What is your business? What is your future? Where do you want to be? Okay, because at the fundamental question, this is not about getting a website. This is not about a business saying, oh, can I have one of those Google My free websites and the world will be just fine for me now? This is about actually saying, let's take a strategic approach. Let's say, what is it that this business is actually all about? Why does this business even exist? Because God knows, if businesses don't know why they exist, they won't exist for very much longer. And if businesses don't know how to exist, they won't exist for very much longer. Okay, so business review, we're going to be running group workshops to get the people together in the rooms. We're going to be running group video conference sessions, ongoing during the 6-month period, one-on-one guidance sessions. We're going to be setting up a virtual meeting room for, as you can see, their peer support. So basically the retailers who are in the groups can, I forgot to mention to turn your phones off. That's okay. So basically, because one of the other things that happens, of course, in this online environment is not only do people not know what they don't know, but they also don't have a lot of people to talk to about it. It gets kind of lonely at the top or at the bottom, depending on how you view your role in the organisation. And so it's important to have people to be able to share with and learn from. And I'm not trying to be the guy who knows everything. In fact, what was that?
It's a fine, that was that is, Richard.
What'd you do?
Big fine. Another mobile.
God, another mobile. Who did that? Put your hand up so I can... Oh, Peter, mate.
I just wanted everyone to know I was here.
Okay, this Peter Talliangus has arrived, ladies and gentlemen. No, thanks. Thanks for coming, Pete. So anyway, it's not only important to share what people learn, share from those who know, the digital service provider specialists, and some of the input that I can give at a strategic level and a kind of big picture level. I guess part of what my role is in all of this as well is to filter out the wheat from the chaff. We could use other metaphors, but basically to kind of filter things out to say, hey, this is part of what is going to make sense for you. You actually don't need some of this other stuff. And some of the things that will make sense for you are these things as well. And this is what we're developing through the pilot program, so that we can then understand what it is that different businesses at different stages are going to need in different ways. Okay, and then, so peer support is important. And of course, ongoing support during that 6-month period. Phone support, email support, just ongoing relationships. It's only up for 12 people, or 12 businesses. And I'm really excited about this because this is part of what I think can really demonstrate what we're doing with the webinars and what we're doing with the resource guides and what we're doing with the whole pilot program. This is about making a difference. Because here's what the outcome is that we hope, and in fact I will make sure, that people do during the program. Identify, I'll just read, I hate when people read bullet points, but at the same time I'll just do it just for fun. Identify smarter strategies for their business. Learn to develop their own digital roadmap, that's important. Gain insights and practical knowledge about things that are important to that particular business. Gain clarity on the options and alternatives. Learn to identify the resources that they actually need, and including the budgets. It's not enough to say, yeah, okay, we need that. but then to say, oh, well, how much is that going to cost? Well, I hadn't thought about it yet. What we need to do is identify what's the business case for doing whatever needs to be done. And it's not just a business case that says, oh, if we invest $1 million, we'll make 3 back, so let's invest $1 million. That's a stupid business case if you haven't got $1 million to invest. So it's about saying what's real, what's realistic. Sharing ideas and information about tips and traps in the journey, getting assistance to be matched with service providers that are suitable, and also to have this all closely monitored. Because one of the things we are reporting back to the government is not on individual retailers, we're not doing that, but as a group to say, here are the results that we got. This is what happened. This is the difference that we were able to demonstrate. These retailers coming into the program started here, and at the end of the program, they actually got to here, hopefully. Or if they got to here, there was something, God, okay, we learned something from that as well. But that won't be the case, because one way or the other, we'll make sure that the retailers who participate in this get improved results in some aspect, if not lots of aspects of their business operations online. Sometimes, as you guys in service provider land know, and as retailers know every day from what you're doing, sometimes just a small tweak can make a massive difference. There might be just something little, some little thing on the website that's just not working quite well. And so just a small tweak of that can make a huge difference. So that's what we're also about. Not setting up the big differences to make, just that. Obviously there's some big differences to make, but let's fix the small differences and let's address those small ones as well. Does that make sense? So that's part of the game. Now these people who are in this program are going to be invited to be featured as case studies, to share their experiences. I had a conversation, in fact it was yesterday, with a newspaper in town who said, oh, your program sounds all right, but it'd be really good if you had some case studies, because I hadn't told them about the details of the program. They said, it'd be really good if you had some case studies. Well, actually, well, that'd be good, because we're going to have some of them. And so these businesses who come on board with this and develop as case studies are likely to get attention, hopefully, I can't promise it, but are likely to get attention from different media as part of this. So I want to make sure it's positive attention, okay? By the way, as case studies, we're not going to ask you to spill your guts and share all your secrets and share all the wonderful things that you've just learnt during the program and give away whatever marketing advantage you now have over other retailers who didn't bother to participate, who are just going to come and suck your brains for nothing. No, we're not going to be giving out a lot of confidential information. That would be dumb. What we do want to do is to inspire others so that they too can get on a journey that actually can make a difference to their business. Does that make sense? So, these retailers will probably be located in the Perth metro area, but it's open to anyone in Western Australia, but for convenience sake, it'll probably be metro retailers. Fees, $12.50, as I mentioned. It is heavily subsidised. The fee, basically, as I've got here, is primarily to confirm commitment. It's a tinsy bit about the money, but it's really about saying, hey, if you're serious about making a difference, then $1,250 for this intensive 6-month program is actually a relative drop in ocean. It's a small contribution to cost. The program's going to commence in November next month, and will run through to June. I don't necessarily think all of the retailers are going to start, all of the 12 are going to start the program in November. It really depends on who applies for it and what starting date they nominate for it, okay? And so the applications are going to be open in the next few days for this. Okay, and the other thing we're doing is building a service provider database. And this is, as I mentioned before, with the objective of being to create better matching between the needs, resources and budgets of retailers and the expertise and sweet spots of service providers. And again, creating profiles in the database is free. There's no charge for that. Being able to use the database is free for people who... This is all done through the website, right? So it involves, yes, you do have to register in the website to have access to it. It's not open slather for everybody. This is something that people need to register. And it's only open for WA retailers, but it is open for out-of-state service providers because there are lots, and we have to accept this. This is just how the world is these days. There are people who live and work and are based, businesses that are based outside of Western Australia who sell into Western Australia and who sell into to retailers in Western Australia. We'd be silly and naive to think that they're not. And some of the people who sell into Western Australia from outside for retailers into WA are providing really good stuff. Okay, so service providers don't have to be based in Western Australia in order for them to be able to be listed in this. But we clearly encourage all the service providers who are based in Western Australia to list in this. And then part of what my mission is to find and involve, and you guys already know some and I already know some of the really good and better services that are available around the world to plug into systems for retailers here in WA to then connect in and be part of that service provider database. As an example, there is a fabulous firm we came across earlier this year, and for a workshop that I ran here at CCI, actually, we had a half-hour video conference hookup with a firm who are based in San Francisco, I think, somewhere in America, who actually allow for real-time messages to appear on the websites of retailers, real-time, varied in real time for each user who comes onto the website. And this is a managed service out of this company in America. It's a really impressive thing. Doesn't cost a whole lot, but God, it does some really clever stuff to be able to convert people who are just a bit iffy about whether they're going to do something on the website at the moment, change the message they're about to see based on who they are and what they last did. Don't set one thing for everybody. This is about personalisation. This is about clever. And we can add clever into local websites here by connecting into clever people overseas. And that's part of the mission here as well. We want to get cleverer. It's no coincidence it's called Smarter Digital Roadmaps. We're trying to get smarter. Okay, bang. So what are some of the topics? Now, I put this up really advisedly, but just so you can kind of wrap your head around it, this is not a definitive list. This is not what we're looking at. But some of the things that so far we think retailers or experience shows and retailers tell me, and we're actually going to run a survey on this over the course of the next month. It's one thing I haven't mentioned yet, but we're going to be surveying retailers to help find out what topics are going to be important to be covering. About the business. We need to get clear on the business. A retailer who hasn't thought about their business, like it might be fundamental business planning 101, but so many people miss it once they get rolling in their business. Customer-facing systems and back-end systems. You know, there are different things to be thinking about. Mobile, social, websites, shopping systems, making sales, getting found online, inventory management, analytics, conversion management. You know, it's one thing to get somebody to your website, it's another thing saying, what do they do? Mark Garner's here from Make Them Click. That's his business, makethemclick.com.au. That's what he does, conversion management, conversion optimisation. And I'd also like to say Mark has kindly offered to manage, and thank you, Mark, thank you so much for that, manage the LinkedIn group that we've set up for this particular program. So we've set up a LinkedIn group, oddly enough called Smarter Digital Roadmaps for Retailers, which you're very welcome to join, and Mark and I are managing that. And again, thanks, Mark. So there's a bunch of topics for retailers. Now, who are the sort of service providers who may be interested in this? Well, again, this is not meant to be a final definitive list either, but there's a whole range of things, of skills that we can tap into that I think retailers need to know about. Copywriters, analytics specialists, logistics specialists, mobile app developers. I mean, this list is extensive. At the same time, does every retailer need to know every one of these? God, no, not necessarily. But if you want to have some good video on your site, then you need to know someone who can do that. If you're going to do it yourself, you need to know how to do it yourself. If you want to know if you're going to have a website and you're not measuring what's going on the website, because you can, if you're not measuring what's going on the website, you're missing out on so much opportunity. So we need to have analytics specialists. We need to have access to that. So these are the sort of service providers we're trying to link together as part of this. Okay. Foundation supporters, and I'm so pleased that some of these guys have come tonight, representatives, and they're going to be talking in a minute, and just to give their thoughts on this. And then, in fact, we're going to be hearing from a real live retailer who I have been running, Simon here, who I've been running ideas around, and with various other retailers as well, some of whom are in the room and some of them who couldn't make it tonight. But we're going to be hearing from Simon as well, who's going to give his thoughts on this program. Australian Web Industry Association, and you know, you can see the rest. By the way, I wear a few different hats. I am the president of the West Australian Internet Association. The West Australian Internet Association agreed to be a foundation supporter of this program back in February, March of this year, when we started mooting the whole thing and developing the idea for it all. I just became president in September, and so I'm very... In fact, Paul, do you want to say a few words later on, Paul? No. Okay, you don't want to... On the spot? No. Okay, so anyway, there we go. Foundation supporters, some pretty good industry associations, very good industry associations and groups, and also we're keen to work in with others as well. Okay, that we already have, and this is the launch. We haven't only launched the put the website up last week. We already have some key supporters. The City of Perth, I'm so pleased, have come on as a supporter. They've issued a media statement on their website today, I think, and sent that out to the media. City of Perth is really keen on this website, on this program. Clearly, they've got a need, and because they've got a lot of retailers within the city, some of whom are struggling. But the city is very keen and is a supporter. Nexia Perth, an accounting firm, the Albany Chamber of Commerce, and Uric Leon. Uric who knows Uric Leon? Anyone involved in retail probably knows Uric Leon, right? So Uric is a keen supporter of this. He wanted to be here tonight. He's actually at Southern Cross delivering a training workshop for retailers in Southern Cross, and I said, that's reassuring that you go out to Southern Cross. There is hope for us all after all. So Uric's very, very keen as well. And I also have permission to say, but I can't put the logo up, the City of Joondalup. Is Julian here? Julian, thank you for coming, man. And Julian said it's okay if I say the City of Joondalup is interested in this as well. And thank you, Julian. Is that okay for me to say that? That's fine. Good. City of Joondalup also has a really high percentage of retailers, okay? As do a lot of other councils. Anne Petch is here from the town of Vic Park. There's lots of councils who we want to be approaching with this to help push the message out so that they can pick it up or not, it's up to them, but so they can push out this message so that retailers in each of the different areas can plug into it and or the councils can plug into it and pass the message on. Okay, oops. Okay, there's a website. This is a screen grab of the new website. I don't pretend that it's a fabulous website. It is what it is, but it'll get better. But it's actually pretty good. You website critics out there, don't bother. This is about the purpose, right? So what's our purpose? What's the website's purpose? Website's purpose is to inform and share information, okay? But the address, more importantly for this, is digitalroadmaps.org. And I would love it if anyone who feels so inclined goes... I think I've got a pointer here. I don't know how to use it. Oops, there we go. Goes, and what you'll see, they've got a mailing list. Join as a retailer, join as a service provider, become a supporter. Mark had a look at it the other day and said, you've got a lot of call to actions there. So yes, because we've got 3 discrete groups. People who are retailers, people who are service providers, and people who really are potentially supporters. Okay, now, there's some info there. I would now like to introduce Bret Treasure. And Bret, what I need to do is turn me off here. Thank you. This is
Thanks,
Bret Treasure, National Chair of the Australian Web Industry Association.
Thanks, Richard. How am I going? All right. So I'm not really interested in cars. Someone dragged me along to the Sydney Motor Show on the weekend. And car industry, big industry, Sydney Motor Show attendances are down. That business model seems to me to be broken. And why is that? Well, what used to happen is people would go to the motor show to get to sit inside a car and look at the interior of the car, get information, do comparisons, a lot of stuff that they can currently do already on the internet. Okay, so that show is in trouble. The other thing that came to my attention in Sydney, there's an app that's recently been launched which allows taxi drivers to use that app. You as a customer can then notify that you're ready for a taxi using geolocation. The closest taxi driver will get a notification, and that taxi driver will then phone you directly to pick you up, thereby cutting out all of the the services offered by the taxi company itself and going direct to the drivers, causing a lot of upset. And both of those things seem to me to be examples of what the internet is doing to business models generally. I've been over looking at the Web Directions seminar conference in the Eastern States. A lot of the brightest sparks in the world, a lot of thought leaders looking at what's happening on the web and what trends are. One of them is a guy called Ben Hammersley, who consults to the UK government. And Ben says everything the internet touches, it destroys and rebuilds in its own image. And that's pretty much what is happening, and that's what retailers are facing at the moment. So a little bit about where the association fits into this is we're really quite interested in the difference between ethical operations and unethical operations, and Richard mentioned that a number of people have had the experience of having unsatisfactory dealings with web developers. So, you go to a web developer and you tell them you want a website, they're going to give you a website and they're going to charge you money. So that happens. Now, some operators are more ethical than others, and some people get better service than others. What tends to happen is that the ethical people join our industry association. I'm not saying that that's 100% the case, but by and large, we tend to have the more ethical operations. The people who have lower levels of ethics tend to have big sales forces, and they tend to go cold calling, and they pick up a lot more business. And this creates problems for the image of the whole industry, which is why, as an association, we're interested in drawing a line and separating out for people the difference between those two classes of operation. So we're interested in, you were talking about a database of service providers. We're interested in providing materials to people like retailers so that they can take those to web developers, ask them difficult questions, be more informed about what they need to find out along the way, and make better decisions. So we're most enthusiastic about participating in that and helping to put you in touch with people who have the knowledge to help you with the strategy. I guess the final thing on that is to say that we are creating a category within our directory which is going to allow you to find the people who will give you the advice about digital strategy that you need. We're separating out the people who consult in that area and who are competent in that area. And there are some of those people in the room today. So, yeah, look forward to cooperating, particularly in terms of the database and how that works. And more power to you, and congratulations on the initiative.
Thanks very much, Brett. Now, thank you. Martin Purcell. Martin is the Vice President of the Australian Marketing Institute in Western Australia. Martin.
Thank you very much, Richard. I'm sure the irony is not lost on any of us here that we have even a title that's called Smarter Digital Roadmaps for Retailers, and it certainly shows the maturing of the online marketplace and the challenges that retailers do face. We have a term in marketing, in the Marketing Institute, and we call it the marketing mix. We have lots of fancy terms. We have terms like strategical positioning and things like media leveraging and all these fancy words. But essentially what we mean when we talk about the marketing mix is marketing in its entirety that takes into accord every aspect that is required to successfully engineer a marketing platform for your business. When I talk to people, I say, look, fundamentally, marketing or business is two things. One is it's creating the right assets, the communication tools that let people know you're there and that tells your powerful story. That's not enough. And I love the example Richard gave today because he talked about, yes, here's a website. Great. We've got an asset. What does it do? How does it function? What purpose does it serve? I think it was Winston Churchill that said something like, and excuse me, Winston, it's a paraphrasing, but something like, it's wonderful to have all these strategies, but occasionally it's good to get results. And the word logistics is often used because logistics talks about the how-to, the roadmap. You go from point A to point B, step 1, 2, 3. And that's what so many providers don't give you. You get the asset, okay, we've got a website, we've got a brochure, I've got a business card, I've got a sign, but I don't have any channels to market. I don't know which of my channels are profitable. I don't have any information. So we at the AMI are delighted with this initiative because it serves a purpose. There's a roadmap, it's a pilot program, it's going to be measured, therefore it has substance, it has foundation. It's not just all this fluff and smoke and mirrors stuff. So thanks, Richard, and delighted to be involved. Thank you.
Graeme Speak. Graeme is representing eGroup WA.
Thanks. We've got no hands left. Just wondering how many people have thought about how many industries have been completely wiped out in the last couple of years with the iPad and smart tablets. When I moved to Silicon Valley in 2007, we'd come up with an idea of how to make money, how to monetize free software. The iPad didn't even exist. And it was when I first came into the city for the very first time at night, came down this freeway, up this bridge, and the first thing I saw in San Francisco was this massive billboard that said Yahoo. And I couldn't believe it because I thought that internet properties were all just simply online. It was the first time I realised actually it's grassroots marketing that a lot of these companies do to start with. I remember at the Moscone Centre, one massive Apple conference, the guys outside the doors had these massive balloons that was their direct competitors. It was guerrilla marketing, firsthand. So I lived there for a few years, and what I learned is that the whole culture of Silicon Valley is collaboration. What you know about the world, your worldview, and you just can't imagine what other people next to you know. They've got a completely different worldview. And so the whole system there is about networking, cross-pollinating ideas, getting together with who you like, who you can work with, brainstorming, coming up with something fresh. And it's rapid, okay? So it's a completely collaborative environment. And everybody in Silicon Valley realises that the world is their market. It's not San Francisco. San Francisco is about 1/3 of the size of Perth. It's about 750,000 people. It's tiny. But outside of that is what is so massive. So the other thing I learned about San Francisco and Silicon Valley and the US, most of the people you meet are actually just hot air. They're flakes. Not so Australians. I got back here, and honestly, I love Australians. You'll always get a committed conversation. That guy's going to be there again tomorrow and the day after, and he'll be listening because he wants to work with you. And so this is what I fell in love with. When I got back to Perth, I teamed up with a bunch of other guys, and we created eGroup. So eGroup is a bunch of internet entrepreneurs. We do everything from, there's guys there who are from retail, with retail online. There are guys there like myself from a technical background. I've got a cloud computing technology in QV1 infrastructure. We've got guys involved in social internet marketing and the full spectrum of everything else in between you could possibly imagine. The whole point is to create a kind of mini Silicon Valley here in Perth. There's enough creative energy and enough committed listening. If we can just get that cross-pollination with other people, then we think that there's a lot that could actually happen. Of course, the main thing that we all realise here, online, there is no geographic boundaries. You go online and you're actually going to be dealing outside of Perth, which is a massive market. And I guess the whole culture of what we're trying to do is reinvent. If you want to come and join us, you'd be really, really welcome. We meet once a month. We have a fairly formal structured meeting. And a lot of collaboration. The whole point is actually get people cross-pollinating and sharing ideas. You'll learn a lot from meeting these other guys. And I guarantee that if you come, you'll end up not just putting your business online, but you'll reinvent your business. Thanks.
Thanks, Graeme. Now, Richard Giles. Richard is the co-organiser of Mobile Monday here in Perth. Thanks, Richard.
I don't know if I need to convince anybody that mobile is actually growing, because I know Richard had to compete with 2 mobile phones already in this meeting. But mobile, well, there's over 100% penetration rate for mobile phones in Australia. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. But smartphones are sort of the new up-and-coming thing. And at the beginning of the year, had you asked me how many people had smartphones in Australia, I would have probably said just under 50%, but the stats were growing. Now the numbers, we're not sure, because it's growing so rapidly, it seems that people doing the numbers can't keep up. So I think the latest stats I've seen are over 50% smartphone penetration in Australia, with some numbers along the lines of 70-odd% between the ages of 18 and 60 or something like that. So, significant. And as an aside, I guess another interesting stat is that 30 million minutes are played on Angry Birds every day. So anyway, if that doesn't sort of give you an idea of how popular mobile is and smartphones, then I'm not sure what will. Mobile Monday was created in the year 2000 in Finland, funnily enough, where Nokia's from. And also where Rovio come from, who are the guys that create Angry Birds. And it's actually the CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer from Rovio, that came up with the term Mobile Monday. Now it's in 80 countries throughout the world. It's a not-for-profit, and the aim is to connect people who are interested in mobile. And that's pretty much it. I think they've got a fancy collection of words that in Wikipedia that talk about it, but that's the essence of it. Locally, we created a chapter about a year ago. The idea is that we're here to help connect people with people that are interested in mobile. So we do have specialists, and as Richard has said, that's sort of why we're interested in being involved in this. Locally, we're passionate about creating a community in Western Australia that promotes Western Australia in general, so happy to help.
Thank you, Richard. Okay, so now, thank you very much, people from industry groups. So now I'd like to ask Simon Chadwick, who is the owner of Stride Shoes, to give us a couple of minutes of his thoughts.
Thank you, Richard. Sitting next to these gentlemen here, I feel very daunting. I just find a very powerful group of individuals. And that's how I felt 3 years ago when I took the plunge and said, I've got to go online. I did not know anything about a website. I went around and everyone told me the doomster stories. Everyone told me how they wasted money. Everyone told me how they spend all your life. They're outdated before you start. But in the end, the words that I was hearing from people is, if you didn't go online, you're left behind. Now, you've got to remember, 4 years ago, we just enjoyed 18% growth in our business. We're very profitable, opening new shops, and it all looked rosy. This year, when we do our financials, we'll probably find that our turnover will be backwards 5% if we took out online. Wages have gone up 5%. Rents have gone up 5%. We're lucky that we have a very good relationship with our suppliers. We're getting better buying, so we'll improve our margins, but we cannot rest on our laurels. Richard, I met him about a year ago. I got invited by my accountant to come and listen to speak. He'd just come back from his sabbatical trip to Europe and just come, and he's fresh. And I sort of sat there and listened to him, and I thought, So yeah, another one going on. So I'd heard him for the last couple of years. But Richard persisted with me, and he kept talking to me and listening to me, and he wasn't judgmental, and that was great. We went online 18 months ago. I knew the day we went online that it was outdated, the plan. Now, I just spent 25 grand investing on a website. I know that's not much in a lot of your view, but it's a lot of money from a retailer's point of view. Basically, money taken away from wages or whatever else. It was out of date, spent another 5 grand within the 6 months trying to update it. It's always out of date. Do you know what I mean? And there needs to be systems, there needs to be a smarter way of doing it. Richard's book, I've sat and read it, and I understand it sort of, but I don't fully understand it. I am more than happy to have a mentor like Richard to hold my hand, to talk to me. Look, I consider myself a fairly good business person. I was a farm advisor for 10 years, worked with a bank, I understand cash flows, understand financials, back to front. But in the new world, the changing world, or what we'll call the new retail space, I cannot survive by myself. I need people to help. These gentlemen here, each one of them I would have talked to, and I would have been scared about the bill they were going to give me if I talked to them. I would have been too scared. And they have a lot to offer me, just sitting there listening to you guys, and I've been to a couple of forums with Richard, and I really can see the merits in it, but I said to Richard at the end of one of them, I added up the bill that I would have got from each of them if I talked to them, and I'd be broke. Do you know what I mean? So I think there is a really good future in retail. I believe that Stride Shoes will land in a really good retail space. And the interesting part is, I believe it, but our customer is a mature customer. Our average customer would be 45 years of age, and they've probably been buying from us for a long time. We have a 35,000 mailing list. But our future growth is online, and interesting enough, for the trade we're losing here, it's all going east. We're selling to the eastern states now. Who would have believed that a small retailer from West Australia would be selling into the east? And people go, well, why aren't they buying locally? Because the customer is time poor and they are not willing to wait. Basically, they get instant results, and somehow we fluked it and got it right, and we're experimenting. But I see the potential just huge. So I'll be the first one to sign up for this program. I'm excited. It's quite daunting as a retailer sitting in an office thinking, how am I going to do it next? And we're in a fortunate situation. We're debt-free. We understand our business, and it's still daunting. I'm more than happy to walk hand in hand with people like Richard, all these gentlemen, and whoever else wants to work with the retailers. Because retail will be here, will be the future. It is a big employer. It is not about to disappear, but we need to be smarter rather than work harder. Thank you.
Almost this time to go because we've actually overshot our 6:30 time frame, but that's okay because we've got until 6:45 really. Does anyone need to rush out right now? Okay, just you. Okay. Thank you so much for coming. Could I just ask before I'd just like to take maybe one or two questions, but we do have to wrap up, and I did say 6:30. So I guess could I please ask you to, if you would be so kind as to fill in. There's a form on your chair called a feedback form. I think it's headed up by saying something like "love your feedback," which the truth is we really would love your feedback. If you could please make it a few notes in there and just give us your thoughts on this program. This program is still yes, we think we know what we're doing with the program, but what we really want to know is what your input is. And, oh, thanks, Simon. There's some pens. Anyone need a pen? Because there are certain key things, core things that we're doing, but the way that it rolls out has some flexibility in it as well. Does anyone have any key questions? Thank you. Thanks, Steve. Cheers, mate. Yeah, thanks. Does anyone have any questions of anything that you'd like to ask at the minute?
What's the next step?
What's the next step? The next step is, okay, good question. Next step is we're going to be taking applications for the coaching program. We're going to be running the retail survey. We're going to be doing the webinar schedule for the first 3 months, setting the templates together, or the structure together for the resource guides, communicating with service providers in different areas of expertise, and inviting those to come on board and register with us and ask those who feel like being contributors to contribute. I recognise totally that not everyone wants to share their wisdom. Some people want to hold on to their wisdom. Those clever people who want to hold on to their wisdom and just be the only person who knows what that person knows don't quite get the internet yet, because the way the internet works is sharing things, right? One of the things that I did talk about a little bit in my book, and then you guys probably know already, the internet is a place of abundance. And something shared is something that grows. Something held closely to your chest is something that dies. So I'm more interested, generally, from my experience, what we're more interested in doing is finding people who want to share their knowledge and wisdom so it can be released and can flourish and can grow. The internet is a space of abundance. There is an abundance out there already. In fact, there's so much information on the internet already that it's like drinking water from a fire hose if you go looking for stuff. It's a challenge. What we need to do is to filter it in such a way and present it in such a way that actually makes sense. It's in a structured roadmap format, in stages that make sense for retailers who are at different stages of their journey. Okay. Another question? Michael.
Richard, slide 3, qualifications for the 12. You did indicate that it was $1,250.
Yes.
That's part 1. is there a framework in place as to who will qualify, or is there a requirement or a wish list, etc., that you people have already worked out?
Yeah, it's in the process of being worked out, and that'll be on the, I mean, the questions on the application registration form, when it's released in the next few days, will reveal that, will show that. I mean, basically, it's not for people who are starting out and who know nothing and who just want to get started with a website and who think that spending $100 on a website is a lot of money. But equally, it's not for people who want to spend 100 grand either, you know. It's for people who actually are whatever stage they are in their business, but who want to take it to the next level and get better.
One more question. I deal with a lot of interstate retail businesses, and as you know, either they be following, etc. Does it amount to treason, as this is WA? Okay, serious. Okay, it's been done for WA.
Yes.
I can tell you from my experience, WA is a very small part of the market.
Yes.
Okay, I could find plenty of people, the right people. But is this? So we can't sneak anybody in from Sydney.
No, we can't. This is for. Thank you, Michael. I love your thinking.
Yeah, no, that's in trade.
Okay, so here's the thing. This is a pilot program for Western Australian retailers. Okay. We will learn lots of things during the pilot program. We hope to develop, with the help of everybody, a whole structure and framework that actually makes sense and gets results and works. What happens after the pilot program is a case for what happens after the pilot program. But during this course, this is Western Australia. That's what the government, the Western Australian government, is not really caring about retailers outside of Western Australia.
But Victoria have pulled the pin.
That's big, yeah. I get where you're coming from.
On what they did.
Yeah.
Okay, now I will send you an email.
Thank you. But you know, it's called one step at a time. You may say, "What's your roadmap, Richard?" That's another conversation. But this is a pilot program. Yes. Sorry.
Can you define startup? You said it's not for business.
Okay. I said it's not for businesses, so the lady asked if I could define a startup. A startup is a business that really doesn't exist and is now wanting to exist. Yeah, no. Just let me correct that and say, if someone, I guess it's more about if someone's got all the resources they need and there's the right, it's about thinking. It's about the stage and attitude, really. It's about where they are mentally and where they are resource-wise and where people are at the stage of whether this program is the right thing for people. You're talking about the coaching program, I take it? Yeah. Because let me preface that and say a lot of the material in the webinars and a lot of material in the resource guides will be absolutely perfect for people who are in startup mode. But working on those businesses who are in the coaching program over a 6-month period, I don't know, is the short answer. We're really looking for people who are running existing retail operations and who want to take those retail operations to the next level by getting smart about what they're doing online.
Maybe we could do a challenge.
I'm very open to challenges, and there's, you know, I don't want to rule anything out. At the same time, I can't say to you, oh, that's exactly what we're looking for, because truth is, it's not.
Has your
right?
website got a blog?
Yes.
Anyone?
Yes.
So we can, as people that participated here, get onto that blog, and we're the only people here. You'll get a few interlopers that'll come in later. But we can, when we get home, pass comment on the blog.
Oh, you can. Well, I might just turn the comments off. Okay, can we just take it? No, of course you can. And there's also.
It's only because the people here have a viewpoint.
Yeah, no, I love
it. The time,
yeah.
And it would be interesting to hear people's opinions.
I totally agree. We've got a LinkedIn group that I urge you to join, and we're going to be sharing information through that. Yes, there is a blog, and it's a news blog really. There are also other ways we're going to be creating for the coaching program participants an online meeting area, which may be expanded during the course of the program into something for other people, but we'll see how that goes. I'd really love to get whatever feedback anyone wants to make. Can we have maybe another question? I'm happy to stick around afterwards, and we do have to leave the building by about 6:45, but I'm happy to stick around and take questions, even if we talk outside on the pavement, but we do have to leave pretty shortly. But is there one other question for anyone that's got a burning thing you'd like to ask? Yes, sir.
More a comment. I've just been to the online retail conference in Sydney.
Yeah.
and I found it's very different over there. There are people that are actually specialising in building e-commerce shops for retail.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone in Perth that's doing that as a specific service. Sure, people will build a shop, but then that's kind of the end of the story. But there's a whole other field between the shop and the web developer that's not being done in WA, to my knowledge.
Okay, and thanks for the observation. I would actually say there are businesses in Western Australia that specialise in that area, but do they specialise in it well enough for you to know about it? Clearly not.
No, try Google, it doesn't bring up.
Yeah. Okay, hey, thanks so much for coming, everybody. I really appreciate your thoughts. If you can leave your feedback form on the chair, that'd be brilliant. If you want to get involved with the program in whatever way, that'd be great. What I would ask, though, if you could please share information on this. If you think this is a good idea, please tell other people, because we need to get the word out. Thank you so much. Most of this is free. Thank you.